The first sound I heard was a violent crash, the kind that does not belong inside a home you built with your own hands. For a split second, I stood in my driveway trying to convince myself it had to be coming from somewhere else, maybe a neighbor doing late construction. But then I saw a thin cloud of dust pushing its way out through my kitchen window, drifting into the afternoon air like something had just been broken open from the inside. That was the moment my chest tightened, because I knew exactly where that dust was coming from, and I knew something was very wrong. I had come home early that day because a meeting got cancelled at the last minute, a small change in schedule that should have meant nothing. Instead, it changed everything. If that meeting had gone as planned, I would have walked into a finished disaster, a clean lie already prepared for me, and maybe I would have believed it for a moment. But I did not miss it. I heard the destruction while it was happening. I was there for the truth before anyone had time to hide it. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside, and the air hit me like a wall. Fine white dust filled my lungs, mixed with the sharp smell of fresh wood and shattered plaster. It felt like breathing inside a construction site, except this was not a construction site. This was my home. For a second, my brain refused to understand what my eyes were seeing. The kitchen I had spent years dreaming about, planning, and paying for was in ruins. The island stood in the center, or what was left of it, split down the middle like something had struck it with force. Marble cracked wide open, clean lines destroyed in seconds. Cabinet doors were scattered across the floor, hinges ripped out, wood splintered. My carefully chosen lighting fixtures hung crooked or were already torn down completely. And standing right there in the middle of all of it was my stepfather, holding a sledgehammer over his shoulder like it belonged there. My sister stood a few feet away, near what used to be the sink, casually speaking to two men in work boots, who were already dismantling the upper cabinets as if this had been planned all along. None of them looked surprised to see me. No one froze. No one tried to explain themselves immediately. Instead, my sister glanced over and said something that still echoes in my head more than anything else. "You are early." Not "what are you doing here?" Not an apology. Just an inconvenience, like I had shown up before a surprise party was ready. I stared at her, then at him, then back at the destruction around me. My voice came out slower than I expected, like I was still trying to catch up with reality. I asked, "What is this?" even though the answer was standing right in front of me. My stepfather lowered the sledgehammer slightly but did not let go of it. His tone was calm, almost rehearsed, like he had already decided how this conversation would go. He said they had talked about updating the place, that it was outdated, that they were helping me move things forward. Helping me, that word landed harder than anything else in that moment. 8 months earlier, I had finished that kitchen. Every cabinet was custom built. Every detail had been planned by me. I had saved for 2 years to afford it. Nearly $90,000 poured into making that one room exactly the way I wanted it. It was the first space in that house that truly felt like mine. I told him clearly that I had not agreed to any of this. My sister crossed her arms like she had been waiting for me to say that. She said I never make decisions, that I take too long, that someone had to step in and get things moving. The tone was familiar, almost comforting in a twisted way, because I had heard it for years. The subtle implication that I was the one holding everything back, that I needed someone else to take control for me. I took a step closer to the broken island, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger, not yet, something steadier. I told them to stop right now. One of the workers hesitated, clearly unsure. My stepfather did not hesitate at all. He lifted the sledgehammer again, raised it high over his shoulder, and brought it down with full force into the already cracked marble. The sound was final, heavy, irreversible. The fracture widened, splitting what was left of the surface into pieces that could never be put back together the way they were. I moved forward instinctively, reaching out, maybe to grab the tool, maybe to stop him physically. I am not even sure. What I do remember is how quickly he reacted. He shoved me back with enough force to throw me off balance, and before I could fully regain it, his fist came straight toward my face. It was not wild or uncontrolled. It was precise. A short, practiced motion that landed directly against my cheekbone. The impact stunned me more than it hurt at first. The room went quiet immediately after. The workers stopped moving. My sister said nothing. I tasted blood in my mouth, standing there in the middle of what used to be my kitchen. He told me not to be dramatic, like I was the one escalating things, like I was the problem in that moment. He said this was what was best, as if breaking my home and hitting me was somehow a favor. I looked at my sister, hoping for something, anything, but she would not meet my eyes. That was the moment something inside me shifted completely. Not in a loud, explosive way, but quietly, like a door closing for good. I did not yell. I did not fight back. Instead, I turned and walked out of the house. The dust followed me into the sunlight, clinging to my clothes as I stepped back into the driveway. I sat in my car without starting the engine, hands resting on the steering wheel, trying to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed twice in my pocket. It was my sister calling. I did not answer. Instead, I opened my email and pulled up the property documents I had saved there. The deed, the refinance paperwork from the previous year. Everything clearly stated one thing that no one inside that house seemed to respect. The property belonged to me, sole ownership, my name, and only mine. Then I opened the camera app on my phone. Months earlier, after some tools had gone missing from my garage, I had installed interior cameras. No one had liked it at the time. They said it felt unnecessary, even paranoid. Now, those cameras were showing me exactly what was happening inside my home. I watched the live feed for a few seconds. My stepfather was arguing with one of the workers. The energy in the room had changed. There was uncertainty now. The workers were no longer confident. They were starting to question what they had walked into. I made 2 calls, first to my attorney, then to the police. I kept my voice steady. I did not exaggerate. I simply reported what had happened: assault, active destruction of property without consent. I told them I had video footage. I gave them everything they needed. When I walked back inside, the atmosphere felt different. Not because of me, but because doubt had already started to spread among the people doing the damage. One of the workers quietly asked my stepfather if there was a permit for this kind of work. My stepfather snapped back immediately, saying they did not need one. The worker responded just as quietly, saying they did if anything structural was involved. The tension was building, but it did not have time to explode. The sound of sirens cut through everything before the argument could go any further. 2 officers walked into the house, and their presence changed the entire dynamic instantly. There is a weight that comes with authority, something that family arguments never carry, no matter how intense they feel. They looked around at the destruction, the broken stone, the dust still hanging in the air, the sledgehammer leaning against what remained of the counter. One of them asked a simple question: who owns the property? My stepfather answered immediately, confidently, like he believed it. I did not argue with him directly. Instead, I handed the officer my phone. He read through the documents, checked my identification, and then looked back up. Then he asked the question that ended everything: did you strike him? There was silence, no explanation, no denial. The cameras filled in the truth where words failed. The workers stepped back first, putting down their tools, clearly wanting no part of what was unfolding. My sister tried to speak, saying it was all a misunderstanding, but her voice lacked the certainty it had earlier. She was no longer looking at me. She was looking at the officers. Charges were filed that same day: assault, criminal damage to property. The work crew left immediately without finishing anything, and later their company reached out to me directly, making it clear they wanted to distance themselves from what had happened. The house remained in pieces for months after that. The damage was not something that could be quickly fixed, and in a way, neither was everything else. Family members called me, telling me to let it go, to not make things worse. They said it was family, that these things should not go to court, but I was not the one who made it go that far. I was just the one who refused to pretend it had not happened. The legal process moved slowly, without drama. There were no shouting matches, no emotional breakdowns in court. My stepfather eventually accepted a plea deal to avoid a full trial. He was ordered to pay restitution, and there was a strict no-contact condition put in place. My sister moved out of state not long after that. We have not spoken since. Eventually, the kitchen was rebuilt, but I did not recreate what had been there before. It did not feel right to pretend that nothing had changed. The new design is different, simpler in some ways, stronger in others. Sometimes I stand at the new counter and think about how often I used to give in on small things just to keep the peace. How I allowed people to step into my space, make decisions for me, and then call it help. I used to think staying quiet was the easier path. I know better now. Taking control of my life was not loud or dramatic. It was paperwork. It was patience. It was holding on to the truth even when people asked me to let it go. There was no celebration when the final payment came through. Just a quiet notification from the bank. No apologies followed it. No attempts to fix what had been broken between us. The house feels different now. Quieter, emptier in some ways, but also clearer. There are boundaries now that did not exist before, lines that cannot be crossed again. No one lifts a hammer inside my home without my permission, and no one will ever mistake my silence for weakness again.